Yes. She's not. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. This is the June meeting of the Virginia-Highland Civic Association Board of Directors. Present are members Keenan, Frayland. Well, you have two names. Give me a break. You're still Wilkes. Ferraro, Becker, White, Forschler, Horn, Carlisle, and Arturo Cruz Tucker. Peggy Berg will be late, and Pam Patner, let us know that she will not be here tonight. I'd like a motion to adopt the agenda, if we could, with a minor revision. If we can, we're going to move my permission to adjust it as needed to accommodate Mr. Tucker's schedule. So,
second.
Without objection, it is so ordered, and we will. We do not have the minutes, and I apologize, and we'll catch up next month, I swear and promise. We'll move on to our police representatives, and please introduce yourselves, gentlemen.
Steele Stellenberg, Steelingberg.
Charles Ross.
Ross, welcome, both of you. Sir, the floor is yours.
All right. We have like 2 robberies over there off of North Highland Avenue. So you guys very, especially up there, it's back up on top of the hill, 455 and the 309, 451 block. They had 2 robberies on 6-4 and 6-7. And also what I'm noticing too with stuff over here, that there's a lot of vehicle larcenies. There's at least 5 within the last, from the beginning of the month to now, and that's a lot. That's way too much. 1 is way too much. And I got at least 5 out of now. And all the thefts, I have them 5, and most of them is back over there on the other side of North Island. Over there is Dixie Avenue, Old Fort Ward area. So if you guys are over there or living over there, just pay close attention to your cars. And another thing is coming out, anybody owns the, the Honda CRV? The catalytic converters, be careful of that. Watch where you park it. That's where they go and screw up your catalytic converter. You're going to find out when you turn the car on, it makes this extremely loud noise, and that's when they realize that it's stolen. So that's a big thing now. It's being on the news. You probably read it somewhere within the last month or so. So catalytic converters from, I think it's Honda CRVs. Any questions?
Those 2 robberies you mentioned are in Virginia-Highland, am I correct?
Yes.
Okay, not that we don't care about them, we certainly care. How do you have to have relative stats for this year or last year or 2 years ago?
I don't have the stats comparing last year to this year. All I did is took the.
We appreciate y'all coming and know you're coming on short notice and have many other things to do. If you, to the degree that you get a chance or you report to your zone commanders, we love it if you can tell us. And it's not just last year, but even over the last 5 years, a 5-year average, and here's where they are now, because you can have anomalies and so forth. But that's helpful just to see rumbling along at the same old unhappy level as a new one. And I think that's it. That's all for my questions. Questions from the audience?
One question. Do you know if the robbery at the grocer on Barnett he was killed. Was that ever solved? Do you know that?
I don't know that, if it was solved. That's normally handled by a different unit, totally specialized towards solving that thing, which is a homicide unit. But I'm not sure if it's solved. Because the homicide unit don't report back to us, the police officer at the low level. If you want to know, we have to go find it out. But I can look into that.
Other questions? All right, thank you all both for coming. Be careful, we appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
Councilmember Wong may not make it, but he doesn't appear to be here. So we're going to go on to our next other guest tonight, and that's the acting director at the Ponce-Nolan Library, where we are meeting now and we're planning meets and where we meet so many times, and that's Madigan McGillicuddy. Ms. McGillicuddy.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, thank you.
Well, I want to thank you first for such a nice introduction. John's given me such an important sounding title that's not really my title. I'm the Youth Services Librarian here, and I'm the interim branch manager. Our branch manager has left for greener pastures in Birmingham, Alabama, where he's from. It's been a really good year at Ponce. It's such a center of the community. If you want me to throw some numbers at you, we typically get about 450 people in and out the doors every single day. We're open 7 days a week. We're very busy on the weekends. We're very busy now that school is out and summer reading programs are in full swing, so that's been really exciting for us. We typically circulate about 18,000 items every month, and that's books, DVDs, audio books, all of that. And so, you know, people are really enjoying and using the library services that we have to offer. As opposed to last year, our circulation is down slightly, but we're hoping to turn that around. Starting today, they just rolled out, we're increasing our borrowing limit. So it used to be that with your library card, you could check out 25 items. Starting today, you can check out 50 items. So you want to go hog wild, get a lot of picture books, get a lot of novels, catch up on everything. You can check out 50 items at a time starting today. So that's pretty exciting. We're really excited about that. Last year, we received a really, really generous grant from the Virginia-Highland Civic Association, and we put it to really good use. We had intended to show movies in here. In terms of the licensing and the way we worked it out, it was decided that maybe that was not the right time to do it. So we tabled that, and we ended up using that money for a couple different things. We purchased some high-demand books that are really popular that we just didn't have the budget for otherwise. We purchased some DVDs. We also used it to purchase some performers who would come and do programs. We've got a lot of programs. This room is in constant use. People in the community always are coming to us with ideas of programs and things that meetings that they want to have in this room. So we use that to pay for Fiddlin' Dan, aka Reuben Holler, who's a Virginia-Highlands resident. He's a professional musician. He does a jug band. He's going to be coming twice this summer, which we're really excited about. And he lives walking distance. He's an award-winning children's performer, and he's within walking distance of the library, so it felt really good to kind of turn that around, put it all in the same community and bring him in. We also had Mama Koku come and do a story time with us, which was fantastic. And who else were we getting? Penguin Pete is going to come, polite Penguin Pete. So we're going to have a good time with that. And then, we sat down, we looked at, the history of our summer reading program. We do some small prizes for, every kid who reads 10 books or every teenager who reads 5 books. They'll get a small prize, some, bookmarks and stickers and a free book and various things like that. And then they get entered into a grand prize drawing that's citywide, countywide. And then there's one winner from that. We have never had a winner from Ponce. We've never had a winner from Ponce. So we decided this year we're going to do an internal drawing for a grand prize at Ponce. So we'll have a winner, 2 winners at Ponds. We're going to be giving away Nooks and Kindles and gift certificates. The kids are so excited. They're in it to win it. Every 10 books you read, you get 1 entry. So I have kids coming up to me, they're like, I'm going to read 100 books. I really want that Kindle. So it's really, really cool. We're really excited about it. And especially because we haven't had a winner at Ponds before. And in years past, we're like, did I win? Did somebody from Ponds win? And we're like, no. But this year we'll be able to say yes. And that's because of the money that we got from Virginia-Highland. So I'm really excited about it. Are there any questions? Can I open it up? Anything we haven't covered?
Question.
Yes.
Will you take donations of old Kindles to give out gifts?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we could do that. Yeah. Yeah, talk to us, yeah, talk to me after. Yeah, we'd be happy to.
So,
any other questions?
Your budget for book purchasing has been cut, as I understand it, several years in a row. Is that,
It has.
Is that again the fact this year?
It has, yeah, it has. Our book budget has been cut, not as badly as, you know, as we feared, but it's a slight cut. And in turn, our ebook loaning has skyrocketed. And we have, you know, greatly increased the amount of ebooks that we have available for checkout. So we're excited about that.
Fulton County Commissioner Garner is asked to come to this meeting in August, as I recall. And so every time we bump into her, we talk about the library, because in tough times, library budgets and usage goes up, and it needs the support to do it. So we'll have a chat with her on that. I mean, they're tough. They have needs everywhere, but I'm hoping we can cheer for that. Any other questions for Ms. Mealy? Thank you for coming.
Yeah.
This place is central to the community in many ways, and to us, and has been for 2 decades. So I'm really glad that you're here, and thank you for all your cooperation with us.
Yeah, thanks.
All right. Well, thank you very much. We're going to move on with one slight change. Mr. Cruz Tucker, our treasurer, has to move on. He's trying to leave town tomorrow, but he's going to go ahead and give us, we're going to move to Summerfest. I have Pam is absent. We'll get a full report next month. I will just say generally that I think it was, again, an extraordinary success and an amazing effort by tons of people, and you know, really another terrific event. But Arturo is going to at least give us, actually it's a very small subset of the budget, the one we're interested in, about some peripherals on the budget. So Arturo.
Yeah, so I'll just cover, like you said, a few items. The major funds from Summerfest are going to come from the sales of the vendors and sponsorships, but again, this is a small portion, but nevertheless significant. So the store where we sell T-shirts and other items this year pulled in $4,556.08. Compared to last year, it was significantly lower, but again, due to the weather last year, I think that played a big role. Last year we did $7,591. The dinner, which you know, this neighborhood dinner for everyone, we pulled in $170 for that. Last year was $175, so $5 was there. Parking, $1,620 this year, and last year was a little bit higher than that. It was $1,957, so about $300 difference there.
We got interrupted on Sunday this year by the weather.
Yeah.
Too, and some events at the church that on Saturday that took away some time.
Yeah, the weather last year was just absolutely amazing. So it was, I think, the high of 82 the entire weekend. This year we dealt with a little more heat and some rain on Sunday. So for Tot Trot did well. I did $550 this year, and then last year was $490. So there was an increase, small increase there. Kid Fest pulled in cash $2,184.55. Last year, cash-wise, Kid Fest did $2,571. Our sponsorships, though, stayed the same at $2,875. So we almost broke even. We're probably about a little less than $100 short because we brought in a vendor to sell some other kids' items in there. So total revenue that we pulled in from cash sales for those items were $9,392.63. So pretty good to add to the overall.
Yeah, those numbers are so much higher than they were 5 years ago, and when some of them didn't even exist, and those activities. That, well, that's excellent. Questions or thoughts or comments for Arturo? We'll be leaving us shortly, as soon as he can gracefully disappear. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Have a good vacation, and we'll see you when you get back. We will move on to planning and variances. Lola.
Okay, we'll start with 513021, which is 960 Highland Terrace, but they requested a deferral, so I would move to approve that deferral request.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
And next is V13077, same request for that to defer, which is, what is the address?
770 Greenwood.
770 Greenwood, so I move to approve the deferral request.
Second.
Comments, thoughts? Without objection, I'm sorry, go ahead. All right, we're on.
Next is V13092, which is 882 Highland Terrace, and we have the applicants here to talk about the variance request and the project. Can you do that?
Yeah, good evening. My name is John French. I'm the... Sorry.
What'd you say, no, closer?
Okay, thanks. My name is John French. I'm the applicant of record and the proposed builder. My clients apologize for not being able to make it at the last minute consider issue, but in that event, we have a proposed project at the above address. We're looking to do some interior renovations and a second-story addition to the existing home. It's a non-conforming lot. The house is currently sitting on the property 3.1 feet off of the property line, and we're looking to reduce this required 7-foot yard setback to 3.1 feet, and we're have an existing front porch that's currently at 29.9 feet inside of the setback, or outside of the setback, I'm sorry, and we've got an extension to the front porch with a bit of about 130 square feet of conditioned space above, and we're looking to reduce the front yard setback from 35 feet to 25 feet.
Your lot coverage finished is going to be, is that 46.2?
Yeah, existing lot coverage is 46.2 and proposed to be 48.26 square feet. And floor area ratio currently is 22.5 and proposed after the second story addition would be 41.5. So no variances there.
I know when we were there, you had your site plans were stamped and dated, and mine weren't, and then I thought, what is this date on yours, and would you mind sharing that with us just so we can take a look?
Yeah, on mine, the date on mine is May 29th.
We get a report of the planning committee?
Yeah, we approved this based on the site plan that he has, 52913, and we discussed some stormwater retention. Did you have anything to share on that?
No, I'm going to go and meet him. This site does not qualify as needing specific plans under the new stormwater addition. In fact, they have a fairly vegetated yard down the backyard that's going to absorb, has capacity to absorb more. What we had decided to do was to approve it contingent upon the site plan dated, and with the understanding, and not actually part of the record, that the owner will consider a couple of options there in the rear, and if they don't, this is going to be fine. There's enough vegetation in the back to absorb the very small amount of new water that is arriving. Is a very minimal increase in the footprint. Most of it is going up rather than out. And there's a pretty good growth in the backyard. And so what we'd said was we'd come by and try to work out some things that you can talk about by the time the NPU comes up and get all the warm fuzzy approvals there, and we will. But I haven't made it over, and we can noodle around and see if we can do something. But if he did nothing, this application would be adequate as it is right now.
Yeah, I think they're quite happy to work with whatever suggestions we have. I think we talked about some measures that would help quite a bit.
The terrain favors this application pretty well. So, any questions from the audience for the applicant? From board members? With a motion?
Move to approve the variance application V13092 based on the site plan stamped and dated 5/29/13.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand. And you are approved, sir. We'll see you at the NPU meeting at Hillside, 7 o'clock next Monday.
Yeah, very good.
You are not going to be finished at 7:21.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Well,
Okay, next is V13093, which is 554 Orange Circle, and we have applicants here to.
Yeah, we have 3 of us here.
Great.
Oh, wow.
If you don't mind introducing yourself, we got
Sure.
Brent and.
I'm Marla Zach, this is my husband David, we're the owners. This is
Brent Grown, I'm the architect for the project. So there's an existing 1921 bungalow, brick house on the property, and it is a non-conforming situation in terms of the side yard setback. The house encroaches into the side yard setback 1 foot 10 inches, which is this side here. So there's a small sliver of the house that encroaches. And the project itself is a interior renovation on the first floor and a second-story addition. And there is no increase to the footprint of the house. We're simply adding a second story. And for the exterior, this is the existing condition of the front of the house. This is the proposed after the work is completed. This is one of the sides of the house. The other side is very similar. The rear of the house proposed, rear and side of the house proposed.
the increase in the encroachment is how much?
There is no increase in the encroachment. We are simply going straight up.
Tree issues?
No tree issues. Drainage seems to be good. We have a large backyard that slopes away from the house. Vegetation in the front yard as well.
Letters of notification of your neighbors, or your neighbors notified?
Yes, all the neighbors are. I've got I should have copied this. I've got the proof of mailing to our last neighbor.
Let's share those with us, and I failed to mention that the past owner had also notified everybody in a burst of efficiency seldom matched in Virginia-Highland. And it actually
This is not next door. Next door is the emails that we've given you.
Okay.
This is out our front porch to the left, kind of diagonally across from
across the
us.
street.
Okay.
I can get you the address if you'd like to
So-
shoot it to you that this owner lives at.
Actually, if you could draw us a little map and
Sure.
and Xerox that stuff.
You got it.
That would be
We'll do
great.
it. We'll do it.
So in the rear, we have an unusual situation. What's in the rear here?
The rear.
Your rear property owners, your rear behind your property.
Amsterdam Lock.
Amsterdam Lock is right there.
Amsterdam Wall. This, the terrain is an interesting terrain. I've never seen this particular piece, but This is about halfway down Orem Circle, proceeding west from Monroe, just before the curve that takes it around into Park. And it's this particular lot has sits at on a promontory almost, with it stepped down in the rear toward Amsterdam Walk, and in fact, in a very unusual situation in our often property challenged lots, they have a fair backyard and then they drop to another level space that's about 15 feet wide in the width of the yard, which is also vegetated. And so we have two sites here before us that do not have the stormwater issues that we often pay so much attention to and we get so concerned about here. But in both of these cases, the terrain has favored them. Although, is there anything else that we missed in the... Any questions from the audience for the applicants? And so this will be, as many things are tough, the construction is tough, the neighbors are close, and y'all are going to do your very best to deal with that as best you can, and that would be greatly appreciated. Any questions from the board? Is there a motion?
Sure, I move to approve V13-093 based on site plan stamped and dated May 29th, 2013.
This is also May 29th.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, cool. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion or questions? All those in favor, please raise your hand. And y'all are approved. We will see you next week. And if you'll bring that little map and drawing with us.
Yeah, do you want me to send it to you beforehand?
No, I think if you'll just bring it,
Okay.
carefully bring it. And in all probability, if you forget, well, you'll have plenty of time to go home and get it. Those things don't move this quickly.
You don't think we'll get out at 7:26?
Yes, sir. I'm quite confident. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, bring a book.
Thank you.
All right, so we are on to the safety committee. Ms. Berg, we have things to report, do we not?
We do. There's a reasonable chance that the St. Charles bundle will get poured this week.
Whoa!
I'm not holding my breath, but odds are really good. So we're
We
hoping.
save the woes until we see the comment. Go ahead.
Yeah. On the new.
Oh, can I ask a question? How much lead time are you going to have to know whether they're going to do it or not? I'd love to get some pictures of them doing that. If we have
Yeah,
any lead
but
time.
we'll
They're just
all
going to
be
show up or?
I asked them to let me know so I could email everybody on the street. I talked to them most recently today when the Commissioner of Public Works was trying to hunt down the Commissioner of Finance to get the check. So, there you have it.
How long, if they got there, is this a couple of days' work?
The contractor's ready to go. And yeah, it's probably,
Okay.
a day to demolish and a
Just as long
day or
as I
two
can
to
see
put
it.
it back. So you'll have some time to get out of it.
And Peggy, I'm sorry, are there pavers on that street? Are the sidewalks pavers right now?
There's a mix of pavers and other kinds of materials, and we will be collecting pavers to sell for the Civic Association for the paver fund.
Okay.
The paver fund is back ordered about 300-400 pavers. So we'll do that, and then hopefully we'll have a little bit of inventory.
I think the church at North Highland in Los Angeles, across the street from the fire station,
Yeah.
they are awaiting pavers. Do you know if they've already paid for them? They've been asking me for an update on the status of
The Church of Our Savior.
Yes.
Father Bolton.
Yes, Father
Father
Bolton.
Bolton, you know what, they are not on my back order list, so would it be possible for you to send me an email reminder, and I'll contact Father Bolton and I'll make sure he gets taken care of?
Okay.
Because I've had several people, before I realized I needed a back order list, I had several people and I just said, call me back in 6 months.
Got it.
So the new bundle has 84 repairs, driveway aprons, and sidewalks committed. 74 of those have paid, about 10 said they're going to pay, and the check's in the mail. We've got $54,000 or so in checks. We've got We're still getting requests to have sidewalks measured. I got 5 requests in today. So I've been spending my days, the last couple of days, running around measuring sidewalks. And I'm optimistic that we'll maybe get between 90 and 95 in the bundle. I'm hoping that would be a really good number for us.
How many do you have now, Ray, this week? I'm sorry. 84.
74 paid.
Committed, 74 paid. Are those
Sidewalks?
10?
Sidewalks or aprons or both?
It's a mix. I think there are 13 that are purely aprons. There's a couple that are purely curbs. And then most of the sidewalks are partial. So we have, last time we did full sidewalks, this time we've got some repairs as well as full sidewalks. Yes?
Curbs are available?
Yes. You want to talk to me later? You can talk to
Yes, I didn't know that. My curbs are even with the street.
Curbs are available. They're $14.30 a linear foot.
Okay,
Okay?
thank you.
And I'd be happy to do that with you.
Okay.
We're gonna work with you.
And then on the subsidy, I think we're at around 10, and between $4,000 and $5,000 that have asked for some form of assistance from the Civic Association. And I expect that we'll get several more of those in before the end, but we should come in well under our budget. We're getting a really strong response to people paying the full amount themselves, and those that have asked for assistance have been very reasonable and justified about it. I think they've been really considerate. And Fraser is working with me on Highland View, so one of our worst streets, I think, is going to have that extra benefit. Questions?
I don't think anybody in this city has been able to get its citizens to accept a promise from the city of Atlanta that they will fix their sidewalks and the citizens will pay for them like we have. Now, if we can get them to actually fix the damn things.
And so everybody is, the general expectation is a year. I told everybody it would be a year, so if we deliver in 8 to 10 months, we'll be like, hey.
That's the move. Sir?
The deadline. When's Thursday night?
Thursday.
Thursday's the deadline.
This is,
I'm taking them down Friday.
okay.
Do you know if they're gonna do the stamps? You know how sometimes on the concrete they do stamps?
Hexagon imprint.
Not if we can avoid it. We're trying really hard to talk people out of stamping.
Really? Why?
Most people I've talked to on our street
Want it?
Want
if
stamps.
they're gonna get the
You can
paper.
definitely have the stamps, they definitely have the models there.
That's what I thought, that's what I told them.
There is an
Well-
upcharge.
Really?
Yes, so if they want the stamps, I'll get you the number, but it's maybe 40, it's like $5.60 a foot for the stamps as opposed to $3.90. Which has helped convince people that they don't necessarily want the stamps.
I would urge everybody just to go take a look at the existing ones because they vary widely in quality, I would say, from amateurish to some that are quite well done.
Yeah.
I would just urge that you go take a look at the existing examples, which do vary greatly, and make your pick accordingly.
But if we do get SD&C, they're good with the stamper. But there's no guarantee that it'll be the same contractor. We like that contractor, and we're getting them this time. But I'm not sure.
How do homeowners notify or say they want it? Do they say it in advance and tell you and pay extra?
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. If their check is for the right amount and they say they want stamps, I will make sure they get stamps.
Any other questions?
Peggy, I think driveway aprons are sort of a standard size. Do you have a ballpark figure for just the driveway apron?
Around the neighborhood, they tend to run 9 feet by 12 feet or so, times $6.56. So they've been, it seems like I've seen them around $700 or so.
So they're more than $390?
They're $6.56 a square foot. Driveway aprons are 6 inches thick, so they can take the weight of a car. So because there's 50% more concrete, and it's also a little more complicated to lay most of them out because they've got that little curve in them. They're a little higher.
And I'm sorry, what was the price for curbs again?
$14.30 a foot.
These are concrete curbs, by the way.
concrete
They're
curbs.
not gravel.
Yeah, the granite curbs are more. They're available, but they're like $30 or $35 a foot. So we've just been doing the concrete ones.
Thank you.
Is this where your property meets the sidewalk, or is it?
The curb? The curb is between the street and the green part of your,
Okay, so it's on the
It's not actually your property, city right. It's the city's right of way, sometimes called the devil's strip.
yeah, so on the curbs, actually, just so everybody's perfectly clear about curbs, on the curbs, if the city takes up the street and repaves it, the city will, as part of a complete streets project, do the curbs if the curbs are needed. I'm not aware of the city actually doing that in, you know.
They didn't do it on
I mean,
our street.
it happens as part of these really big public works projects, so it's not impossible that sometime in the next century, you know, your curb might get replaced without somebody paying for it themselves.
The good news
But
of
it is
having,
optional
of
if you
having
want to
no
do it.
curb is the stormwater comes down and sloshes into the sidewalk strip and less of it reaches the sewer. So it's kind of an unintentional way to divert stormwater, which other municipalities are actually eliminating or putting cuts in the curb and diverting the stormwater onto their strip in places where the topography favors it, which reduces the amount of water that gets into the storm drains, which reduces both the occasional flooding and the amount of water that we wound up paying for treatment. So, you know, just look at the bright side. You're just inadvertently doing the right thing.
We did tell DPW about, you know how they passed that policy that we were going to start doing that? I told DPW all about it. They were excited.
They are. I mean, it's very, they should really go to some city meetings at DWM sometimes and really learn what's going on in their own city from their colleagues.
The one problem with that thinking is like the street where I, you know, it's a little hill, and there's a curve, and there's no curb because it's even with the street, so it washes the dirt away and from under the sidewalk. That's a problem.
It does have to be, I was joshing a little bit about not planning. When you plan it, when it's done, designed properly, it's not difficult to design that in a way in which the dirt is cut out. It's basically a little rain garden, and it just sloshes water in there, and you plant appropriately, and it works very well. And the city is trying to do it over on Juniper, in theory, on their new piece over there. Watershed management is, but there's very poor coordination between the departments, and they got to work on that. They will.
They are.
Any further questions? Really good job, Peggy. We'll see. We're going to
so excited.
We'll be so excited. Okay, we also have in here, we had a meeting with Park Atlanta. Talk about that.
Yes. Park Atlanta's had a meeting with us. Jack invited some of the other neighborhoods also, which I thought was great. It was, Jack was able to initiate it because of their interest in participating in Summerfest, which I guess went pretty well. Nobody shot them. They have a new outreach program. They've determined that there's a communication problem between themselves and the community, and this was part of their outreach program. They want us to know that they mean well. We asked, and they showed us some things that they're doing. They've got these meters like the ones that we have that are for multi-parking spaces. They've got new single parking space meters that will actually take a credit card now, which will make some of those single meters more flexible.
And we'll actually show the amount of time remaining on the meter electronically, which will help consumers without having to dig out your receipt and figure out what time it is now, and et cetera, et cetera. So that will be an improvement in that minor way. That's not really why we wanted to meet with them.
We actually wanted to ask them for two things particularly. The first was, we thought it would be a good idea if they had a grace period, so there wasn't the sense in the community that they were, as they say, lurking behind bushes, ready to leap out the minute your meter expires, or that there wasn't a buzzer on them that enabled them to be there exactly the minute that your meter expired. And we were thinking that about a 10-minute grace period would be a good thing. They say that the way their system is set up, because of the time for the electronic processing of notifications within the system, there is effectively a 6-minute grace period. And they said this with conviction, and you may or may not choose to believe it. I myself, but they did say that they have a very strong policy that their ticketing people are not allowed to lurk in bushes and leap out and ticket you. They train them not to do that. So, and they were very nice in their presentation, and they've apparently, since they've started the program, they've brought in a different crew of people to do the training and to handle the policing and to make sure that their ticketing people are trained in being courteous and trained in actually what is permitted. They also said there are no quotas.
And no
They said that was
incentives.
an urban myth.
And no incentives for writing more
And
tickets.
no incentives for writing more tickets.
This
So
is their report.
that was their response to the idea of a grace period. They also said that if you have a grace period, then everybody knows there's a grace period and people just need more grace period, which was a good point. So it wasn't, I don't think a grace period is something that they would want to publicize.
Although they knew we were going to be repeating this, and we made, obviously, that we weren't.
The other thing we wanted to ask them about was getting increased enforcement during events, because both from a safety perspective, where we have streets that are blocked off, and for the convenience of our residents. And they didn't really have a good way to approach that. They're authorized to ticket in some places but not other places, and they can't actually ticket where we have issues. Did I understand
I
that?
was more optimistic, actually. I think there is a way to get to it, but it's a very specific way. Only away from their meter-controlled or specific city-issued meters, only that part of their staff who are sworn officers can issue tickets. In order, the officer, their training officer is a City of Atlanta police person, retired, who was here. In order for that to obtain, there's some very specific barrier pieces that have to be followed. One is the emergency no parking signs that are normally placed. Same things Jennifer was after during the events at Park Tavern, and that are normally put up, have to be in place 72 hours before the event. Those are normally, installing those is the responsibility of the event. The folks who are doing the event do not necessarily have a tremendous incentive to make it easier for their illegally parked patrons to be ticketed and or towed. I'm not saying they're indifferent. I don't know that that's the case, but there's a disconnect between that procedure of getting them up. They can reasonably get them up the night before, and from an information point of view, they will be effective, but from a ticket and enforcement point of view, they will not. So that is something that I think we are going to have to take up with the event organizers in an organized way. Since our approach to these has been to try very hard to meet with event organizers on events that impact Virginia-Highland, and that there are two broad categories of those, and I'll skip the third one, the one that we put on. There are those in John Howell Park, where Lauren has systematically, or I have tried to meet with the folks doing festivals there and review practices to minimize and protect the park, not tromping up and down the hillside, following the city regulations of the placement of porta potties, if any, cleanup and appropriate access to the water and electric so that we're not constantly having to change locks and repair things there. We want ourselves to be the only people that cut the locks off, not them. And because we bear that cost, even though it's a city park, and we're the ones that folks perceive as having them, and we do have a stake in it, so we try to do that. That's one. The second event is the ones that are in Piedmont Park, and that's the one where everybody really feels the impact. Dogwood Atlanta, the Jazz Festival, the one at Labor Day, there's a bunch of them. Those event organizers need to get their signs up in 72 hours. We need to take photographs of them and notify our friends at Park Atlanta that we want enforcement. We need to try to get everybody at the table ahead of time in an organized way. And then they are willing, they said, under those events, with proper notification and posting, to send their enforcement staff to write tickets. There's one more element that we touched on in this picture realistically, which is most events hire City of Atlanta police working on private time to manage their events. And realistically, there is a relationship between these two groups of people, and those doing the enforcement may or may not have a tremendous set of energy for ticketing people because their bosses are the event. And our folks through Park Atlanta, we want lots of enforcement. I presented, I didn't share, but I have photographs of the Dogwood Festival where I walked around Park Drive, Brook Ridge, Orm Circle, all posted emergency no parking, at least where you could see it. In many cases it was hard to see it because of the cars illegally parked in front of the signs. But there were 87 parked cars between 3 and 4 when I walked around. 13 tickets had been issued. So the other issue that was raised by, I think, Sheila and another person was that the fines are too low. Alex Wan was at the meeting. He was a great help with it. The fines are only $25, and there's a couple of things that have been underway for 6 months or more with us in Midtown to try to create a festival zone parking designation that would make a minimum parking fine of $50 or more, because everybody reports anecdotes of citizens saying asking how much the fine is and saying, fine, go ahead, write the ticket, I'm just parking here. That's not the outcome we want. 25 is not a lot more than the 15 or sometimes $20 that parking lots are charging, so we really do need to incentivize people to do it right. So I think I felt like we moved forward. We've got some work to do to try to implement this. I anticipate struggles and difficulties, but you can't deal with them until you move forward on them. And I think we're going to be able to do it. And I don't expect this to be a panacea, but let's try. I think we need to move on all 3 areas: the parking zone to make the penalty appropriate, and then see if we can work with Park Atlanta to get better enforcement. And they claim they would do it.
It was encouraging that they came, there are people there, they have telephones. It was actually very encouraging. I just want to...
Could you introduce yourself?
I'm Bonnie McCarthy. I'm new to the neighborhood.
Sure.
And I've seen signs. I don't understand. How do people know where they can park if they live? Do I have a sign parking on the street if I live here? Or if I see those signs, that means that no one, even those people that live here, can park there?
If it's emergency no parking, it means emergency no parking.
Okay.
They're usually not on both sides of the street. They're usually on one side of the street.
So when you say people are illegally parked, is it because they're in front of the emergency no parking?
Yes.
Okay.
Or they're just in no parking zones, whether they're marked emergency no parking or not. There's no assigned street parking. There are a few areas in this neighborhood that have permit parking by residents, and there's a process for going through that to demonstrate a certain level of traffic over a certain period of time to qualify to do that, and then the residents are issued parking tickets. This association has never had parking passes that you put on your dashboard or can give to your temporary guests. This association has never had a particularly strong position on it, but generally speaking, the streets are public, and absent another reason not to park there, fire hydrant or near a corner, you're allowed to, or blocking a driveway, one is allowed to park there. And you can come park in front of my street because, as I joke, everybody else does. And I have no driveway and a fire plug, so got the whole thing. But both of those features were in place when I bought the house, I must say. So that's the general riff. And Park Atlanta, if you park near Highland, will helpfully hone your understanding.
I've already gotten a ticket, that's why I'm asking.
There you go.
At my house.
They actually were very cooperative. There was only a little bit of disingenuity, I thought, in the meeting when talked about a little one piece, but basically they were really trying to figure this out, and they are, I think, incentivized to do so because their contract will be up for renewal in a few years, and they are keenly aware of their image in the neighborhood, and the training officer strongly denied that. I mean, he said he's averred that they train people not to stand around near the meter, standing there to write the tickets, get in the car and leave and come back. And they seem keenly aware of their image. They also, apparently the data is uploaded to the computer and it can be read by anyone anywhere. And you don't have to read it at the, anyone with a receiver who can lock into the system can read it. And the new meters are also designed not to be ticketed till after 5 minutes of a violation. And the last part was the 5 minutes was Judge Jackson in the traffic court, as the chief judge in the traffic court, has chosen, if you're in front of him, if you choose to go contest the ticket, to not to dismiss tickets that are written in less than a 5-minute period. That's just been his standard, as he dismisses them. Our report of that anecdote will earn you nothing if he chooses not to do that, but that is the anecdote that was reported to us. And so it has disincentivized them from writing tickets for less than a 5-minute violation, and most of them are 6 for other reasons, for their technical reasons, is the report. Lola, go ahead.
I have a question just about trying to understand the potential for us to work with Park Atlanta during events and have them ticket these illegally parked cars. Sounds like no matter what the event is at this Dogwood Festival, that we would need to do the work prior to photograph the signs. So it will take some
to document that the
hours
signs were up 72 hours in advance.
Well, in theory, I think the way it should work is we should meet with the event organizer, ask the event organizer to meet that standard. The event organizer should agree to do that, and I think they will, in general, agree to do that. And that they will then either do it or not do it, depending on circumstances and the vagaries of human performance. And then we need to be ready, if we're really worried about it, to check on, but also to do it in a timely way that allows time for the event to take place, or to use our own, be ready to pay somebody ourselves to put up the signs. We have a bunch that we put up during Summerfest, for example, and so that's something we can do. But I think we're going to have to explore this goes, and I expect variable degrees of cooperation and assistance, and then I expect a little bit of tension between the officers of the Atlanta Police Force working for Park Atlanta and the officers of the Atlanta Police Force working for a private security person. That seems fraught with peril. I will come to you in 1 minute, ma'am. Sir.
So what I'm hearing is they're willing to ticket not on a regular basis, but when this special event, they don't bother to show up?
Well, it's not that they don't bother to show up necessarily, but it's not their purview are the spots that are governed in their contract with the City of Atlanta. For example, in this neighborhood along Highland. So going down to Park Drive is not their normal routine, but they are willing to do it as a response to our request, which we will make to them to do that. That's just not what they are, part of their regular commercial contract with the City of Atlanta, which covers specific place parking spaces, governed by meters of one sort or another. Was that your takeaway from?
Yeah.
Ma'am?
Is there an alternative place to park where this neighborhood would like people who were here for events to park? Is there a parking?
Well,
I live on Park Drive, and it's like, I'm lucky if I get a place to park.
No, ma'am, I really don't. I think you're in a coveted area of the City of Atlanta where many folks used to go to Piedmont Park. And there's no magic solution for that at all, however many, there really isn't. But I don't think we will know from any secret places living in this neighborhood that you haven't discovered in 10 minutes of driving around, so broadly. I myself have wonderful neighbors that let me park in their driveway
In times of emergency.
Well, on Friday, when I come home on Thursday, Friday, or Saturday, I know their routines. They have copies of my car key, and I can park there in an emergency when I have to park too far away. But I rarely walk more than 50 yards, and I just assume that's it. Welcome to Atlanta. I'm glad you're here. So, where'd you come from?
Moved here from the UK.
Oh.
Will park driver become a permit, but it's permit only? Maybe it's such a high traffic area. Would you guys look into that part of it?
We are not going to organize it. We don't organize that. I think, but if the residents wanted to try to organize, there's a procedure for trying to do that, and
JD,
folks
you can tell
can
him.
undertake it. JD is
Guys
part of
have
the
done
group
it
that did
correctly.
it. And you're welcome to try to do that.
I think, realistically, I think it would be hard to do it on a park drive.
Right.
I think the city would be very reluctant to make that.
It has to do with
Permit
traffic,
parking.
but it also has to do with a certain number of houses don't have driveways. If they have if you don't have a certain percentage that don't have driveways, then you don't qualify. There's a formula that they have, and it takes a number of months of study and taking counts and so forth before you can qualify.
You also want to be careful what you wish for, because your friends also get ticketed when they don't have the permits up there, as well as the spaces appear, they require permits, so it just is, there's no panacea. There really is not. I mean, you've chosen to live in a highly popular area that we welcome you.
Actually, the people I hear most from about the permitted parking are nannies who are not making a lot of money and who are getting a lot of tickets. So.
All right, if there are no other comments,
I've got another question. I want to go back to parking real quick. Last year when we started the program, I know you set it up where you actually met with Public Works official at each address that wanted it done, and they allotted a certain amount of responsibility for the city where trees have done damage.
Oh, yeah.
Are we doing that this year? Is that no longer part of the program?
No, that's part of the program.
Well then, this is bothering me. People are writing checks for the full length. And I'm not exactly measuring for the trees because the city comes and says, this is what we'll be responsible for.
City's not going to do refunds like that.
Well, so that's my point.
I mean, I'll come make an estimate if you want to make that accommodation. If they're paying for the whole thing and they're happy, that's okay too. The city's allotment for any given tree tends to be very small. But if you have anybody with a tree situation, I'd be more than happy to come look at
That's
it
the
with
point
you.
on our street, as you well know.
I know there's some.
There is a lot of median tree damage from the roots.
Well, maybe y'all can take that up afterwards, because
Yeah,
it is.
I'd be happy to come look at it.
Negotiate that a little bit. That's a fair point, indeed. All right, we're going to move on to, good job, Lauren, particularly if the trucks arrive, on to parks. Lauren Wilkes-Fraley.
Okay, just want to make sure everybody knows that we did add plants to the triangle, and I think it's looking great. We did have a little sign up there, or not a sign, a little fence to try to keep the kids from the schools and stuff that hang out around there, getting yogurt and stuff after school, to kind of stay off of there, letting the plants get established. But we have taken that down just for the summer, thinking there may not be as much traffic, but there's no guarantee. So just if you see anybody standing in the triangle or stepping on the plants, if you just kindly ask them to step out of it. I've done it a bunch of times now, and I'm sure others have too. A lot of times they're just not even aware that they're standing on the plant. Also, the Virginia-Highland sign, neighborhood sign right here is coming separated from the post, and so we've got someone coming to look tomorrow to see if that can be fixed or how it can be fixed and how much it would be. He's also going to look in John Howell Park where we have all the benches. If you remember last summer, we sanded down a lot of the benches that had kind of gotten dirty or messed up a little bit, and he put stain on them, and we're looking to see if some of them may need a second round of stain just to keep them looking nice for this year. And we are about a year out from, I think it was last July when we started doing a lot of the improvements to John Howell, just on the maintenance and upkeep and planting and pruning there. That's